Whoa Dave is an addictive and frantic arcade platformer that sees the player being put into the shoes of a minuscule character known as Dave. The premise of the experience is incredibly simple, with the objective being to collect as many coins as possible in the hopes of racking up a high score at the end of each run. In order to collect these coins, the player must overcome the wide range of enemies that litter the screen by either throwing a selection of eggs or skulls at them. But what manages to flip this otherwise tired platforming trope on its head is the realization that holding on to these items for too long will also result in the death of Dave. It becomes a real juggling act and immensely adds to the difficulty of the experience as you make your way through the generous amount of levels and content that is included. Admittedly, it can be quite frustrating at first, but once everything clicks, Whoa Dave will offer you one of the most satisfying and rewarding experiences available on the Vita. Bentley's Hack Pack is a compilation of minigames that was originally released to coincide with the console version of Sly Cooper Thieves in Time. It allows the player to have access to several of the arcade machines inside Bentley's arcade, a character within the console game, and sees 3 separate experiences available for the player to jump into. Each minigame features a total of 20 stages and rewards the player with tokens, which can be redeemed for prizes, and culminates in a secret ending for players who manage to collect them all. Although nowhere near the quality of the experience available with a regular Sly Cooper game, if you're fond of the series and pick up and play style minigames, Bentley's Hack Pack would make a perfect addition to your library. Developed by Hitbox and released in 2014, Dust Force is a platformer with a rather unusual premise. The player takes control of one of up to 4 janitors, each with their own slightly varied characteristics, such as jumping height and speed, and is tasked with ridding the world of dust and grime. With over 50 levels to traverse and essentially clean up, there is a lot to get stuck into and keep players busy. And to top this off, Dust Force empowers the player with some pretty nifty abilities, such as double jumps, mid-air dashes and wall jumps that make exploring each environment an absolute joy, and this is where Dust Force begins to truly shine. The gameplay is incredibly fluid and rewarding. After mastering it, you'll soon be blazing around each level with style and grace, in the hopes of acquiring a high rank score, which is all tied into how quickly and effectively you have achieved your goal of cleaning up the streets. Taking place in a post-apocalyptic world, Lone Survivor sees the player filling the shoes of an isolated survivor of an infection that has transformed modern society, leaving many wandering the streets as aggressive, brain-dead zombies. As you would expect, the main objective of the game is to just survive. Each day you leave your apartment, which serves as a sort of hub for the proceedings, and head out in the hopes of acquiring new items that will further your exploration of the environment. Find food which can be cooked to manage your health, as well as weapons to even the odds, all the while dodging the many threats that lurk in the shadows. What makes Lone Survivor so memorable is the inclusion of multiple endings that all depend on your actions throughout the game, making it a much more personal experience and at the same time providing a wealth of replayability for those that want to see everything it offers. Oregon Trail is essentially a parody of an educational game released in the 70s known as the Oregon Trail. It aimed to bring to light the hardships of early Americans settling across the land. With Oregon Trail, everything is turned on its head, with the premise being that of trying to find a safe place to settle free of flesh-eating zombies. It's quite a tonal shift when compared to the game that inspired it, but it still shares many similarities with it, like managing supplies such as fuel and ammunition as you make your way across the frontier. It's an incredibly basic looking game, but don't let that put you off, as a whole host of addictive systems and mechanics lay underneath its rather simplistic exterior that feel both rewarding and satisfying in their execution. If you're looking for something completely different away from the explosions and hustle of many games out there, Oregon Trail will offer up a unique experience to those willing to give it the time that it deserves. The first thing that will strike you about Sultan Sanctuary is its impressive visual style that will instantly leave a lasting impression among many. But what really hits home is the incredible mashup of gameplay styles that mix together to ultimately create something unforgettable. Taking the combat and progression systems from the Dark Souls games and marrying it with the freedom and exploration of the Castlevania series will make Sultan Sanctuary feel instantly familiar to many, but it manages to put its own stamp of identity upon everything, resulting in a rewarding experience for both new and veteran players of the genre. Gameplay is both responsive and fluid, with combat being closely tied to the progression system that is presented as a skill tree. It offers many ways in which to develop your character and soon becomes one of the best aspects of the experience. If you've yet to give Salt and Sanctuary a go, now is the perfect time, with it also being available on several other systems like the PS4 and Nintendo Switch. Field Runners 2 is a tower defense game that tasks players with taking on wave after wave of enemies through the strategic placement of a wide range of weaponry. Consisting of over 25 levels set across 4 distinct environments, the player must survive up to 70 waves in order to advance, and as you can imagine, towards the end of each round, the action heats up to an almost insane pace. With a limit of only 20 escapees on each level, it becomes essential to understand the various weaponry at your disposal, may that be standard turrets, bombs, or even rockets. They all have a role to play in stopping the enemy advancing. To top all of this off, there are several difficulty levels included, which manage to amp up the stakes even further, resulting in some nice replayability for those that feel they have mastered the way in which the game works and are ready to take it to the next level. By doing so, Field Runners 2 rewards you with coins, and the higher the difficulty, the more coins you will receive, which can then be spent on upgrading your arsenal to further improve your chances of survival. Gundam Breaker 3 takes many cues from the previous iterations in the series, and builds upon the already solid mechanics and features by adding subtle changes and extra quality of life inclusions that make this the definitive version in the series, and one hell of a blast to play. There are several modes in which to take part, ranging from Core Assault that sees the player defending against enemies in a core, Monolith Demolition that requires the player to take on a monolith after a certain amount of enemies have been taken out, and finally Team Deathmatch, which is quite self-explanatory. Now, what makes Gundam Breaker 3 stand out is the sheer amount of customization options available to the player. Nearly everything about your Gundam is customizable, right down to specific paint jobs and weapon types. It all feels like a well-crafted love letter to the fans. A clear level of passion is on show, which in all honesty makes this one of the best experiences on the system. Lost Dimension is a tactical role-playing game that also saw a release on the PlayStation 3. Its story takes place in the future, after a mysterious entity known as the End has caused several massacres around the world, resulting in an organization known as SEALed being created. This is where the player comes in, and is tasked with completing several missions on behalf of SEALed with a cast of characters that each possess their own attributes and abilities. As you would expect, the standard aspects of most role-playing games are present, such as leveling up your party, which further helps their effectiveness in the field, but mastering the several types of unique moves such as assist and gift is paramount to your overall success within each battle. It takes a while to get used to, but soon becomes second nature as you make your way through each mission. If you're fond of tactical RPGs, Lost Dimension has it all, and will offer you one of the finest experiences available on the system to those willing to give it a try. Macross Delta Scramble is a highly impressive experience for the PlayStation Vita. Yes, it's all in Japanese, which may turn off a few players, but for those willing to look past it, you'll find one of the finest games on the system. Featuring characters from the anime of the same name, it's the player's job to take on missions using the huge range of vehicles by utilizing the many weapons and abilities at your disposal, including a special support skill that fills the screen with a devastating attack to help take on some of the game's more trickier opponents. The whole experience oozes style and charm. Each mech manages to feel both unique and effective on the field, which sees the player encountering a whole host of tasks to complete, both in the air and on the land. To top this off, a huge amount of customization is afforded to each machine, making it easier than ever to tailor them to your specific style of play. If you've yet to give Macross Delta Scramble a go, it's one game that will not disappoint.